शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी नमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Friday and Saturday series on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, which is called as Sanatana Shiksha. So we actually began the Sanatana Shiksha in the last to last class. We began the verse by verse discussion and we completed 15 verses, one section in the last to last class, if you remember. This particular theme, how Sanatan escapes from the jail and how it figuratively also narrates the jiva's escape from this conditioned life. And then yesterday we discussed this particular theme, 16 to 44, how Sanatan Goswami travels to Patada and Hajipur. And then we began with this section, 43 to 95, Sanatana Goswami meets Lord at Varanasi. So this particular section is what we were dealing, how Sanatana Goswami is standing outside the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya. He doesn't go in. He allows the Lord to call him in. And that exhibits his true humility. So we drew some parallel from the pastime of Ramanacharya visiting Goshtipur, and all the time, who has come? I have come, Ramanacharya. He identified. But your servant has come on the 18th time when he said, oh, that is the time when Goshtipun gave the mantra. So similarly, the servant is always waiting at the door of the master when the master will call him. So Mahaprabhu being Antaryami, he knew Sanatana has come, so he told Chandrasekhar to, there's a Vaishnava outside, get him in. So Chandrasekhar, when he went outside, he saw a beggar, a fakir, Daravesh, a Muslim mendicant. He said, this is not a Vaishnava. So he said, there is no Vaishnava. Somebody is there. No? Yes, there is a Muslim mendicant. Call him in. So he called him, oh, Muslim mendicant, the Lord is calling. So immediately Sanatana Goswami was very pleased. And we see here the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, and how it is glorified, and how the loving exchange between the Lord and his pure devotees happening. Yesterday we discussed this. So then the Lord glorifies. He first of all, cleanses the body of Sanatan Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami saying, "Don't touch me." But how the Lord glorifies his pure devotees. We saw first reference from the Bhagavatam, uh, Yudhishthira speaking to Vidura, and then another quoted from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. This is the second reference. Then another one also quoted. I don't know the reference where this is from. Oh, this is from Prahlad Maharaj, Bhagavatam only. So we discussed all these verses. And then after glorifying, then there is a fourth verse. So 4 verses in glorification of the how pure devotee, although not born in a Brahmana family or coming from a not a good background, still he is pure and he can purify the whole world, the 3 worlds. So these 4 references, and then we came to this verse. Yesterday we stopped here. Maharaurave haite toma karila udhar kripara samudra Krishna gambira par. My dear Sanatan, Krishna has saved you from Maharaurava, life's deepest hell. He's an ocean of mercy. Kripar samudra. His mercy is unfathomable. It's as wide and as deep as an ocean. Krishna Gambhira Par. His activities are very grave. Now, here his activities are very grave, especially refers to the Lord's activities as the Chaitya Guru or the Super Soul. So, in the purport, Prabhupada brings out very, very important points of how the Lord acted from within in the life of Sanatan Goswami through his entire journey as a minister of Nawab Hussain Shah, from there till he reached Mahaprabhu. So I want devotees who are here online to point out, or to bring out where did, at what particular instance you feel that the Lord directed Sanatan Goswami, and that's how he showed his mercy. I hope the question is clear. Anyone would like to try? The Lord's activities are very, very gambhir, grave. The activities of the Lord as a Paramatma, as a Chaitya Guru, how he showed his mercy to Sanatan Goswami, by which he directed him towards him only. So which are those activities? Can you narrate some of the instances in the life of Sanatan Goswami from the time he resigns and leaves the ministership of Nawab Hussain Shah and he reaches to the house of Chandrasekhar where he meets the Lord? How did the Lord, as a super soul, act very gravely and direct the life of Sanatan Goswami, by which he showed mercy? Can anyone point out the points? Yes, Kalyani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Prabhuji, when Sanatan Goswami was going towards the uh, Lord, so that time he stayed one place, एक जगह पे वो रुके थे, and there means मतलब hotel, मतलब जो भी that stay he was
And
there. Yeah. So there, that owner of that place, he was that feeling. He has something, matlab, valuable.
No, it's not a gut feeling. His palmist had told that he possesses gold coins, 8 gold coins.
Okay. Okay. I thought he didn't told, but that, matlab, he want that money, and then inside he told, okay, take this money and show the path from. I can get out from this forest.
Mhm. So, how did the super soul act and show his mercy to Sanatan? Where, at which point?
Means somehow from inside, uh, Goswami feel that whatever, matlab, some even one coin was left with the servant also, but he didn't told.
Bring out the point. Bring out the point where exactly the Lord directed him from within and showed mercy to Sanatan Goswami. At what point in this particular pastime with the landlord, where exactly it comes for that this is how the Lord uh, showed his mercy and acted very gravely and directed the activity of Sanatan Goswami.
Not getting through.
Okay. So in that pastime, yes, when the landlord showed too much respect to Sanatan Goswami, Sanatan Goswami could understand being, in politics. Oh, there is something fishy in this. So, if Sanatan Goswami had not got this hint, then that day night, if both of them have slept, what would have happened? The landlord would have killed both of them and taken the gold coins. So it is the Lord from within gave this indication. Oh, there is something fishy. The landlord, you know, is in his dealings. There is something wrong. So Sanatan Goswami could immediately understand. The Paramatma inspired him, and then that's why he took those gold coins. Here, the gold coins. Please take me, cross me out. Oh, good, you gave me this. Otherwise, I would have killed you for that, and I would have done pap. So you have saved me from this pap. So this was one incidence where the Lord from within directed and acted very gravely and showed his mercy to Sanatan Goswami. Where else in this whole pastimes narration? Right from beginning, you'll have to go where Sanatan Goswami was the minister of Nawab. From there till he reaches the house of Chandrasekharacharya. Further also there is there, but till then he has not met the Lord of his heart. He meets him only as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the super soul. Uh, he is Bhagavan. The plenary manifestation which is there in the heart is there in front of him. So, which other incidents you feel that the Lord acted very gravely and showed mercy to Sanatana Swami? Anyone else? I hope my question is clear to the audience. I want you all to think. Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. If I have to start from beginning, in the first initial imprisonment, he could understand the intention of that jailer, and he indirectly offered the bribe. So he could understand that he's very greedy towards money. So that feeling must have given by God to him. That is the
Yes,
first
definitely.
indication of mercy.
Definitely. The Lord inspired Sanatan Goswami to approach him and he praised him. And in spite of giving the gold coins and praise, still he was not satisfied. So man na hoila santosht. So Sanatan Goswami now made him more greedy by giving him 7,000 gold coins.
Yes.
So then he got convinced. So that's how he released him. So that was also the mercy of the Lord. Yes, yes. It's a good point. Any other instances? How the Lord is acting from within. Even in our life, the Lord is acting from within, but the Lord's activities are very, very subtle and very grave and very deep. We don't realize it. So in this pastime, we should try to understand it so that even in our life, we can relate these activities. They are very, very, very subtle. Yes, Archana Mataji. Where else?
Second point could be he had asked to help him to cross the river and go to the other side of that mountain hill, though it was very night. So overnight he did the journey. So that could be second point of mercy.
How did the Lord act and direct him? We want that specific point.
He had provided that soldiers along with, because he was passing through the thick
That already
forest.
we narrated. We narrated that. We
Mhm.
narrated that the landlord later on, when he gave the gold coins, that was also again a mercy. Tukaram Prabhu wants to say something. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think the relevant point would be Sanatana Goswami took the jungle route instead of
Oh,
the main.
that was a common sense that you cannot take the normal route because you're come out of the prison. People will see you.
Yeah.
But specific instances where the Lord from within acted and guided him, and that was the causeless mercy of the Lord. It's very, very specific. Okay, many of you have given your inputs. So let us see what Prabhupada will give in his purport about it. Which are the instances where the Lord showed his gambhir, grave, his activities are very grave, and that's why his mercy is also inconceivable and deep like an ocean of mercy. So let us see where Prabhupada says. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Riddeshi Arjuna Tishtati. The Lord is seated in the heart and he is directing the wanderings of all living entities. So he is directing the life of Sanatana Goswami so that he can ultimately reach to him. Now, staying within everyone's heart, the Lord works very gravely. See the points Prabhupada is using. See the words Prabhupada is using. How the Lord works. The word Lord works very, very gravely, sitting in the heart. So how he has worked, let us see. No one can understand how is he working. But as soon as the Lord understands the sincere activity of a person in devotional service, he helps him in such a way that the devotee cannot understand how things are happening. So it is our sincerity in devotional service, and the Lord will help us from within. And sometimes we also cannot understand how the Lord is helping us and how things are happening by inconceivable way. But the Lord wakes, that's why very gravely. His gati cannot be understood. He's a very grave personality. He's as grave as an ocean. If a devotee is determined to serve the Lord is always prepared to help him. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. Prabhupada is quoting 10.10. So Sanatana was determined to leave the ministerial post of Nawab after he met Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli, and the Lord helped him from within. So how did he help? By giving him the intelligence from within. In that instance of landlord, or there is some fishy in his dealings. So that is Dadami Buddhi Yogam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling Sanatana Goswami how merciful the Lord is. Kripa Samudra. This is what Mahaprabhu is telling. He himself is telling. Now, the first instance, how the Lord helped. This is the first one which Prabhupada brings out. Sanatana Goswami was a minister in the service of Nawab Hussain Shah. He was always mixing with materially inclined people, particularly with Muslims, meat eaters. Although he was in intimate touch with them, by Krishna's mercy, he came to find such association distasteful. Therefore, he left them. So this is the first installment of Krishna's mercy, that he felt this association as distasteful. And that's why he wanted to now leave. This is the Lord's mercy. We are also an association of materialist people, and somehow Sadhu's Kripa we had, by which we had Krishna's Kripa, we had come in touch with devotion. And slowly we felt, oh, this material association is not good. Let me be in the association of devotees. And we took up to devotional practice. So this was the first installment of mercy of Krishna, that he who was inclined to associate with the king and the Muslim Nawabs, now he turned his inclination towards the Lord. So this is the first way the Lord acted from within. As stated by Srinivasacharya, Tektva Turnamashesha Mandalapati Shrenim Sada Tuchavat. Now enlightened Sanatana Goswami in such a way that he was able to give up such an exalted post. So this is how he gravely, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, he gave him the knowledge to give up such a huge ministerial post and join. Thinking his material position as insignificant, Sanatana was prepared to become mendicant. Appreciating the activities of Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised his action and thanked Krishna for his mercy upon him. So his material position, he thought it is completely tuchchavat. And he became Tektva Turnam. He gave up everything and he became a mendicant. So this is also Krishna's mercy. This is also this realization to give all this, anything in this material world, and the temporary post, even a post of Brahma, is completely insignificant. And this kind of renunciation to develop, that realization to come, is also Krishna's mercy. So these are some of the instances, and many other instances we can mention. One is which Kalyani Mataji bought with the landlord. He was about to be killed by him. And Krishna gave him the intelligence. Oh, there is something fishy. So Sanatana Goswami gave the gold coins. Another instance was when Shrikant, he met. Sanatana Goswami's sister was married to Shrikant. And Shrikant told him to stay 1 or 2 days. He said, I will not stay here for even a moment. And reluctantly, he accepted that woolen blanket and he immediately moved until he reached Varanasi. So like that, these are all the instances in which the Lord bestowed his mercy to Sanatana Goswami. So the next theme from 43 to 95, this is the third theme we are discussing. In that part 3, 64 to 93, Sanatana Goswami does Madhukari and gives up his woolen blanket. I think woolen is WL. Woolen. Okay. Any questions regarding this point we discussed? Anyone has any questions or clarifications about it? Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji.
Prabhuji, how can we apply this principle in our day-to-day life? Like many a times, we definitely do get guidance or intuitions from within, and definitely God is playing His role in that case. But
Yes.
many a times we tend to deviate also from that good cause. So, how will you justify that?
Yes, it's very important. I wanted that devotees, on this one particular verse, we think a lot, and we try to introspect deeply and realize how Krishna is working from within and giving us the mercy, and we wholeheartedly, with deep gratitude in the heart, express this to the Lord. So, I would like to bring out here the point that the activity of the Lord, how he is acting from within, is very subtle as it is brought out here. It's very grave, very difficult to understand. So firstly, we don't understand and recognize it. That's our problem. Only sometimes in the form of gross thing, I go, maybe I've traveled 1.5 day in train and I've come now to the dham and I've not had any prasad and I go to the deities and pray to the deities. I'm hungry and somebody invites you. The pujari invites you and feeds you prasad. Oh, this is Krishna's mercy. You can relate to this because it's more of an external activity. But internally, when one devotee was telling me who was staying in the farm that there is no electricity there, and late in the night, midnight, he had to answer nature's call and he had to go out. And somehow uh, they had these torch, which are rechargeable torch, solar torch. And with the solar torch, he somehow turned the torch towards the right. He was going straight, but he turned towards the right. I don't know what inspired him to turn towards the right, the torch, and he saw a huge cobra snake. Now, if he had not turned his torch towards the right and little went ahead, it would have been disaster for him. So he was mentioning to me that how the Lord Tadami Buddhi Yogam Tam to somehow, there was no need for him to turn the torch towards the right, go and look in that direction because he was going in the other direction. So the activities of the Lord are very, very grave and subtle from within. At every moment, the Lord is acting us so that we can come closer to Him. So, firstly, we should at least recognize the gross things which happen in our life where we experience the mercy of the Lord, and make a journal, write it down, and slowly when we go deeper into our bhajan and our meditation, we can even understand the subtle way how the Lord is directing our lives and leading us towards Krishna consciousness. So because the activities of the super soul are very deep and grave, we cannot understand that. That is why the super soul, who is the Chaitya Guru within, manifest externally as the spiritual master, as the spiritual master. So that's why we have to take the guidance of the spiritual master in all our endeavors, in all our activities of Krishna consciousness, especially in terms of spiritual inquiry to how to advance in Krishna consciousness and what are the right decisions I should take in life so that I can move towards Krishna. So it is the Shiksha, the Diksha Guru, who is the external manifestation of the super soul within the heart. So because we cannot understand the grave activities of the super soul out of his mercy has manifested himself in the form of externally in the form of spiritual master. So when we are in the guidance of our senior counselors and the spiritual masters, then with that guidance, we can tread this path, this self-eliminating path of bhakti swiftly and reach to the lotus feet of Krishna. Is it okay and satisfactory to you, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, Tukaram Prabhuji has a question. Yes, Prabhu.
Not really a question. In fact, what I wanted to ask Prabhuji, you explained it, but just to make my point clear, what is my personal independence and what is Lord's mercy, or you can say subtle guidance? How can we differentiate? If you can tell us briefly, Prabhu.
Can you come again? What exactly?
Yeah, my personal independence or what I do on my own,
Mhm.
as a soul, and how Lord guides me. I mean, these two are different, right?
Correct. Nice point. Nice question. So our personal independence or our personal freedom is that we uh, surrender our independence completely to the Lord. We become completely dependent on the Lord because we are predominated. The Lord is predominated. The Lord is predominator. So our freedom of independence is when we completely surrender to the Lord. And from the Lord's side, the Lord is Swarat, completely independent. He might act uh, completely according to his free will, whatever he feels like. In the initial beginning stages, he might reciprocate in such a way that we become attracted to him. And sometimes he might reject us and keep us in a devastated condition. Still, it is his mercy. That is also his mercy. Both are his mercy. So the Lord is like that, independent. And whatever he does, still we should accept him as our Lord and our life and soul. So Vishwanath Chakra Thakur brings out this Tat Kripa Ikshanam, one of the angas of bhakti among the 64 angas, is always expecting the mercy of the Lord. Tat Kripa Ikshanam. So the reference or the praman, the evidence or the proof for this is given in the Brahmaji's prayer. Tatte anukampa shushikshamano gunjana evatma kritma vipakam ridva vapuvir namaste jivetiya, that verse. So tatte anukampam su sumikshamana, bunjana eva at kritma vipakam. I'll be enjoying or suffering my own past misdeeds, Ridva Vapurvir, but with body, mind, and words from the heart, I offer my gratitude. And one who lives this life like this, Sa Mukti Daya Bhak, he is qualified to attain the Lord's abode. So, in this particular verse commentary by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur brings out a very you can say, how the Lord lovingly deals with his devotees. He brings out that point. He says that when the devotee suffers while practicing devotional life, that suffering is taking away all his papa karma. And when the devotee relishes the bliss in Krishna consciousness, that is taking away all his punya karma. So the devotees like that are beyond all these papa and punya. But still we see devotees suffer. That's because of aparadha, he says. So whatever suffering is coming in the life of devotee, that is given by Krishna. Whatever happiness a devotee is experiencing in Krishna consciousness, that is also given by Krishna. So then he brings out the analogy or the metaphor, just like a loving father sometimes kisses and embraces the child, sometimes slaps the child. So both are mercy of the father. Sometimes he makes the child drink milk, which is nectar, and sometimes he makes him drink, neem juice, which is very bitter. So both are for the hita of the child. So similarly, sometimes we might not understand that why the Lord is doing this to me, but we have to have faith in the Shastra that whatever the Lord is doing, it is for my benefit, and he, ultimately I use my full freedom to surrender more to the Lord and not to go away from the Lord, especially when suffering comes or misery comes. this tendency is there. Why this is happening to me? He is the cause of it. This devotee did that to me. So these are all superficial things. So real thing is, that how the Lord is acting from within to realize it, and how these events should get me closer to the Lord. I should use my full independence to surrender to the Lord. That should be our mood and attitude of a devotee. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, very clear.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we will move ahead to the next section now. Part 3. Sanatan Goswami does Madhukari and gives up his woolen blanket. Sanatana kahe Krishna mina jani, amara uddhar hetu tomara kripa mani. So when Mahaprabhu spoke this, that Krishna Toma Karila Udhar, Kripa Samudra, Krishna Gambhir Apar. When Sanatan Goswami spoke, Lord spoke like this, Sanatan Goswami in reply, he says, Sanatan kahe. Sanatan replied, I do not know who is Krishna. Krishna Amina Jani. As far as I am concerned, I have been released from prison only by your mercy. Tuma Kripa Mani. So Mahaprabhu is acting as a guru. So when we come in touch with the Guru, that's why we should glorify it. By the Guru's mercy. He has opened my eyes, which were filled with the darkness of ignorance, with the torch of transcendental light in the form of spiritual instructions. So the Guru is actually the deliverer for us, and Guru is acting on behalf of Krishna in one sense. So Sanatan Goswami is taking that, he is giving the credit now to his Guru, who is also the Jagat Guru and the Lord of the universe, and his Lord, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Temene chutila boli Prabhu Prashna Kaila Adyopanta Sabakata Teno Sunila. Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, I then asked Sanatan Goswami, how were you released from prison? Kemena chutila Prabhu Prashna Kaila. Sanatan described the story from beginning to end. Adya Upyanta. Upanta means from the beginning to the end. Everything in detail Mahaprabhu heard. Prabhu kahe tumi dhui bai prayage milia rupa anupama dhuni Vrindavana gela. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I met your two brothers, Rupa and Anupam, at Prayag. That is Rup Shiksha, which is in the 19th chapter. They have now gone to Vrindavan. Dhuni Vrindavana gela. Tapana Mishrera Chandra Shekharera Prabhu Agya Sanatana Milya Dohara. By the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatan Goswami met both Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. I explained that Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar were ordered by the Lord to go and stay in Varanasi. Varanasi was the hub of Mayavadis. Still, these two Vaishnavas had to stay in the midst of an ocean of Mayavadi people there. Because ultimately Mahaprabhu was supposed to come and give mercy and transform all the Mayavadis. So that was a mercy given to Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya. Now, Mahaprabhu was staying in the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya, but yet he was taking everyday prasad at Tapan Mishra. And we explained the reason. Anyone knows the reason why? What is the reason? Anyone knows? Can raise their hand. Anyone knows the reason why it is so? What is the reason that Mahaprabhu stayed in the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya, but yet he was taking prasad at the house of Tapan Mishra? If your spiritual master comes to your house, you'll be so happy. And if he takes everyday prasad in somebody else's house, how would you feel? Yes, Reena Mataji, what's the reason? Your audio is not clear.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
हाँ एक्चुअली ही इज नॉट ऑफ दैट मतलब जो चतुष वो अपने सेम कास्ट के नहीं थे. आई थिंक दे आर इन द शुद्र लेवल. मतलब वो लोगों को बताने के लिए कि मैं मतलब वैष्णव के घर ही प्रसाद ले रहा हूँ ऐसे. आई थिंक मतलब मैंने ऐसे ही सुना है. हरे कृष्णा. Is it
Yes,
okay?
yes. But exactly the reason is that Chandrasekhar Acharya is also a devotee, Vaishnava. Tapan Mishra is also a devotee. And Vaishnava, in a Vaishnava's house, if you're taking prasad, there is no harm. But yet, from a material consideration, Chandrasekhar Acharya was not coming from a different background. And Tapan Mishra was considered coming from a Brahminical background. And if Mahaprabhu behaved in such a way so that the Mayavadi sannyasis staying there would not criticize his activities. So that's why he used to take prasad in the house of Tapan Mishra. If he had not done, he would have criticized, they would have criticized his activities, and by which they would have committed offense to the Lord. So in order to avoid that, to follow that social norm, he did it. At the same time, we know when Mahaprabhu went to Mathura, and in Mathura, before the DT, when he was doing Kirtan, he saw another Vaishnava who was also ecstatic in the Kirtan, and he could understand that he had attained love of Godhead. So he asked, "Who are you?" He said, "I am the disciple of Madhavendra Puri." So he was a Sayodhini Brahmana. A Sayodhini Brahmana considered within the Brahman category also from a lower background. So during that time, the other Brahmanas would not honor or take prasad from the Sayodhini Brahmanas because they are considered lower. But because Madhavendra Puri, when he had visited Mathura, had taken prasad in the house of the Sayodhini Brahmana, Mahaprabhu said, "I will follow in his footsteps. I will also take prasad in your house." So there he broke the social norm based on a higher principle, on a Vaishnava principle. Here he could have followed the Vaishnava principle, but he did not follow the social principle because he wanted to bestow mercy to these Mayavadi sannyasis, and they would say, "Oh, what kind of a sannyasi is he's taking prasad in the house of a lower person who's coming from a lower background." So they would see from material consideration, not from a Vaishnava consideration. So in order to not break that rule, Mahaprabhu did this. Is it clear to everyone, this point? Raise your hands if it is clear. Okay, 1, 2. I think others are not there line. Okay. Girish, Prashant, and Reena Mataji have not raised their hands. Okay. Now only Kalyani and Girish has raised. Kalyani Mataji and Radha Jivan Prabhu has not raised hands. Do you have any doubts about it? It's not clear. If you have any questions regarding it, now you can lower your hands, please. Yeah. So I hope this is a very important point to be understood, and I hope it is clear. So he gave, he met both Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Asha. Tapan Mishra tabe tanra kaila nimantran Prabhu kahe shaura karaha yaha Sanatan. Tapan Mishra then extended an invitation to Sanatan, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sanatan to go get a shave. Chandrasekhar era Prabhu kahe bolana Evesha dura kare yaha iharalana. After this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Chandrasekhar and asked him to take Sanatan with him. He also asked him to take away Sanatan's present dress. Bhadrakaran tanre Ganga snana karila. Shekhare aniya tandra nutana vastradila. Chandrasekhar then made Sanatan Goswami look like a gentleman. He took him to bathe in the Ganges, and afterwards he brought him a new set of clothes. Now, Prabhupada in the Bhadra, he gives his comment. The word Bhadra Karan are significant in this verse. Due to his long hair, mustache, and beard, Sanatana Goswami looked like a Daravesh or a hippie. Prabhupada is relating to the particular 1500 back the situation. At the same time, he's narrating it based on his context in 1965 when Prabhupada went to New York. The hippies, they had beard and long hair. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like Sanatana Goswami's hippie features. He immediately asked Chandrasekhar to get him shaved clean. If anyone with long hair or a beard wants to join this Krishna conscious movement and live with us, he must similarly shave himself clean. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu consider long hair objectionable. Sanatana Goswami was saved from the hellish condition Maharaurav by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaurav is the hell wherein animal killers are placed. In this regard, refer to Bhagavatam, description of the hellish planets. Sei vastra sanatana kaila angikar, suniya prabhur mana ananda apar. Chandrasekhar offered a new set of garments to Sanatana Goswami, but Sanatana did not accept them. Na kaila angikar. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard news of this, he became unlimitedly happy. Mani ananda apar. Nanda means happiness. Ananda means too much happiness. That too apar. Madhyana kariya prabhu gela bhiksha karibare. Sanatana lana gela tapan mishra ghare. So where did he go for bhiksha? To take his meals, Mahaprabhu, to Tapan Mishra's house. After bathing at noon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of Tapan Mishra for lunch. He took Sanatan with him. Pada prakshalan kari, bhiksha te vasila, Sanatane bhiksha deha, Mishrera kahila. After washing his feet, Pada prakshalan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down for lunch. He asked Tapan Mishra to supply Sanatan Goswami lunch also. Sanatan bhiksha de, Mishrera kahila. Now, it is an etiquette, especially when sadhus come, that they are arti and washing of the feet, doing puja. Prat prakshalan has to be done. It is one of the limbs of devotion. Also, from a general health perspective and an Ayurvedic perspective, traditionally, if you go in the villages, before you enter the house, water is to be given at the outside to wash the hands and legs. It's a sign of cleanliness, one. Secondly, especially when you take your meals, before taking meals, washing the hands and the legs and mouth is very important. Because according to Ayurveda, when you wash your hands and legs, your fire gets ignited. And then after your meals, again you wash your hands and legs and mouth, all three. You have to rinse your mouth, in fact, very nicely. So then the digestion of the food begins, especially when you rinse the mouth and wash the hands and legs, especially the legs also. But here, from a spiritual perspective, offering the water feet of the spiritual master and taking that water and sprinkling it at everyone. This is all the anga of bhakti, but I also told from an Ayurvedic perspective, very important. Mishra kahe sanatanara kichu krita ache, tumi bhiksha kara prasad tandra dive pache. Tapan Mishra then said, Sanatana Goswami has some duty to perform. Therefore, he cannot accept lunch now. At the conclusion of the meal, I shall supply Sanatan with some remnants. So Sanatana Goswami followed the etiquette of not honoring the prasad along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in one sense his spiritual master. Why in one sense? He is his spiritual master. So he did not take lunch along with him. So some duty is there, and he said, so he preferred to take the remnants of his spiritual master. Bhiksha kari Mahaprabhur Vishrama karila, Mishra Prabhura Shesha Patra Sanatane dila. After eating, Mahaprabhu took rest for a while. Tapan Mishra then gave Sanatana Goswami the remnants of food left by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he got Mahaprasad. Mishra Sanatana dila Nutana Vasana Vastrana hi Nila Teno Kaila Nivedan. When Tapan Mishra offered Sanatan Goswami new clothes, he did not accept it. Instead, he spoke as follows. Mora vastra dite yadi tomara hayaman nija paridhana eka deha puratan. If you want to give me some cloth according to your desire, please give me an old cloth you have used. Puratan, not Newton. Tabe Mishra Puratane eka dhuti dila teno dhui bhairvas copy na karila. When Tapan Mishra gave Sanatan Goswami a used dhoti, Sanatan Goswami immediately tore it into pieces to make 2 sets of outer cloth and underwear. Maharashtriya Dvije Prabhu Milala Sanatane Sei Vipra Tanra Kaila Maha Nimantrane. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced the Maharashtrian Brahman, this is Chandrasekhar, to Sanatan, the Brahmana immediately invited Sanatan Goswami for full meals. So he invited Sanatan Goswami, come and have meals. Sanatan tumi yavat kashi te rahiba tavat amara ghare bhiksha ye kariba. The Brahmana told, my dear Sanatan, as long as you remain at Kashi, please accept lunch at my place. So firstly, Sanatan Goswami's renunciation comes up here when he did not accept the new cloth. He took the old cloth and made 2 sets, outer garment and underwear. This is what is called as the Babaji Vesh. Now, secondly, he was invited every day to take prasad. But what is Sanatan's reply? Let us see. Sanatan kohe ami madhukari karibe brahmanera ghare keno ekatra bhiksha lava. Sanatan replied, I shall practice the process of madhukari. Why should I accept full meals in the house of a Brahmana? Now Prabhupada gives the purport on what is madhukari. The word madhukari comes from the word madhukar, which refers to bee collecting pollen from flower to flower. A madhukari is a saintly person or a mendicant who does not accept a full meal at one house, but begs from door to door, taking a little food from each householder's place. In this way, he does not overeat, first thing, or give householders unnecessary trouble. Because in one house he'll accept 1 roti, another house he'll accept sabzi, another house he'll accept some rice. So from each house he's accepting different items. So he will not become attached to the food. So whatever is enough to fill his belly, he'll eat. He'll not fall under the jivva vegam. So he'll not overeat. And at the same time, in one house only you accept 5, 6 rotis, then it becomes difficult for the householder. So he'll not give unnecessary trouble also. These are the 2 reasons why madhukari is practiced. A person in the renounced order may beg but not cook. So this is meant for the bhikshuka. The renounced order is called as bhiksha. Bhikshuka Gita is there in the Uddhav Gita, the song of the bhikshuka. So it is the renounced order. They are not supposed to cook, but they can do madhukari. His begging should not be a burden for the householders. That's why he goes from place to place. The madhukari process is strictly to be followed by a Babaji, that is one who has attained the Paramhamsa stage. Now please remember, there are these 4 spiritual orders: Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Within Sannyas there are 4 divisions: Kutichak, Bhaudak, Parivrajacharya, and then Paramhamsa. So Kutichak is one who renounces family life and stays outside the village, not with the wife and children at home. So the wife cooks and brings food. Bhaudak means one who, Udak means the stomach, Bhau means from many places he goes and begs. Or sometimes they go and take grains which are fallen from the fields and then have it. And then Parivrajikacharya means one who wanders from one village to another village preaching. And Paramham stage is not within the Varnashram. It is above the Varnashram. It is completely a transcendental stage. So this Madhukari process is on the Paramhamsa stage. So we can understand how exalted is this the process of Madhukari, which we can't imitate. This practice is still current in Vrindavan, and there are many places where alms are offered. Prabhupada speaks about it. Unfortunately, there are many beggars who have come to Vrindavan to accept alms but not follow the principles of Sanatana Goswami. People try to imitate him and lead an idle life by practicing Madhukari. It is almost impossible to strictly follow Sanatana Goswami or Rupa Goswami because they were on the Paramhamsa stage. They were not on the ordinary stage. It is better to accept food offered to Krishna in the temple than to try to imitate Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. Yukta har viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna avabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. The ideal sannyasi strictly follows the ways practiced by the Goswamis. Sanatanara vairagya prabhura ananda apar. Ota kambala pane prabhu chahe bare bar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt unlimited happiness to observe Sanatana Goswami's strict following of the principles of sannyas, the Paramhamsa, the Madhukari stage. However, he repeatedly glanced at the woolen blanket Sanatana Goswami was wearing. Prabhu chahe bare bar. Bota kambala. Bota kambala is the woolen blanket. Sanatana janila e prabhur na bhaya. Bota tyag kari bare chintila upay. Because Sanatana Goswami was repeatedly glancing, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was repeatedly glancing at this valuable woolen blanket, Sanatana Goswami could understand that the Lord did not approve of it. He then began to consider a way to give it up. Ete chinta gela gangaya madhyana karite eka gaudiya kanta kanta dhuna diyache sukhaite. Thinking in this way, Sanatan went to the bank of Ganges to bath. While there, he saw that a mendicant from Bengal had washed his quilt and spread it out to dry. Tara kahe ore bhai kare upakar ei botalan ki kanta dehamora. Sanatan Goswami then told the Bengali mendicant, my dear brother, ore bhai, please do me a favor. Trade your quilt for this woolen blanket. Se kahe rahasya kara Pramanikahan Bahumulya Botadiba Kena Kantalan. The mendicant replied, Sir, you are a respectable gentleman. Why are you joking with me? Why would you trade your valuable blanket for my torn quilt? Teno kahe rahasya nahi kahe satyavani Botalan tumi deha mora kanta khani. Sanatana Goswami said, I'm not joking. I'm speaking the truth. Kindly take this blanket in exchange of your torn quilt. Eta boli kantalay pota tan radia gosaira thani aila kanta gela dia. Saying this, Sanatana Goswami exchanged the blanket for the quilt. He then returned to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the quilt on his shoulder. Prabhu kahe tomar bota kambal kota gela. Prabhu pade sab kata gosai kahila. When Sanatana Goswami returned, the Lord asked, where is your woolen blanket? Sanatana Goswami then narrated the whole story to the Lord. Prabhu kahe iha ami kari ache vichar Vishay roga khandila Krishna e tumar Se kene rakibe tomara shesha vishay bhog Rog khandi sadvaid narake shesha rog. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, Prabhu kahe, I have already deliberately considered this matter. Iha ami kariyache vichar. Since Lord Krishna is very merciful, Krishna say Tumar, he has nullified your attachment to material things. Vishaya roga khandila. The Vishaya rog. Vishaya. Vishaya means sense objects. Why should Krishna allow you to maintain a last bit of material attachment? Say kena rakibe tumara shesh vishaya bhog. After vanquishing a disease, he gives an example to understand. A good physician does not allow any of the disease to remain. Roga khandi shad vaidya na raki shesharo. Just like when the disease is completely taken away by giving medicine, then the Vaidya, expert Vaidya, doesn't allow the disease, even the trace of the disease to remain in the body. Completely he'll eradicate it. Similarly, why would Krishna leave this bit of material attachment? That last attachment was for the attachment of the woolen blanket. And Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Sanatana Goswami. Tina mudra rapota goy, madhukari grass, dharma hani hoy, loka kare upas. Mahaprabhu is now giving a spiritual instruction. It is contrary to practice madhukari and at the same time wear a valuable blanket. One loses his spiritual strength by doing this, and one will also become an object of jokes. So once one very senior devotee, Vrindavan, very senior devotee and a Kathakar from Vrindavan who was very close to me was telling me that once a foreigner devotee wanted to experience what is Madhukari. And he went in one of the villages here in Braj, I think it is in Barsana, and he went house to house to ask for some Madhukari to do bhiksha. But this devotee was wearing a very costly goggle because I could not bear the intense heat of the sun. It was in the summer. So this senior devotee was telling, "Arey, people will laugh at you, You don't look like a mendicant, wearing a very costly goggle. You have come to beg. Who will give you begging, alms?" So similarly, Mahaprabhu is saying here that wearing a costly woolen shawl and going for Madhukari, one is you'll lose your spiritual strength. At the same time, you'll become an object of joke. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, after discussing all the limbs of devotion, 64 limbs, then what are not the limbs of devotion he discusses? Jnana and Vairagya are not the limbs of devotion. Varnashram is not a limb of devotion. Then other prominent practices which do not constitute the limbs of pure devotion. In this theme, he says, Dhan Shishadibir Draver Ya Bhaktir Upapadyate Viduratvad Uttamata Hanya Tasya Cha Nangata. That bhakti, ya bhakti, which is accomplished by dependence on wealth, followers and other objects. Dhan Shishadir Varer Upapadyate. That bhakti which is dependent on wealth, followers and other objects cannot be considered as an anga of Uttama Bhakti. Na Angata. Why? Because it destroys the pure nature of that bhakti. Tasya Uttamata Hanya. Hanya means to destroy. It is situated far away from Uttama Bhakti. Viduratvat. Dur. Vishesh Rupena Duratva. So, if bhakti is dependent on wealth, followers, and other objects, then that bhakti destroys, the purity of the bhakti is destroyed. So, it was this principle that Mahaprabhu is speaking here. Gosai na kahe ek khandila ku vishay bhog, tanra ichhaya gela mora shesha vishay rog. Sanatana Goswami replied, the Supreme Personality has saved me from the sinful life of material existence. Ku Vishaya Bhog. By his desire, my last piece of material attraction is now gone. Shesh Vishaya Rog. Tandra Icha Gela Mora. Shesh Vishaya Rog. Now, after this pastime, then Sanatana Goswami inquires from Lord Chaitanya. Now, up till here, anyone has any questions can raise their hands. Up till now, what we have discussed. Now here, Sanatana Shiksha is very soon going to begin. And here we will go now more in detail, verse by verse, and we will bring out now Dashamula Tattva also very soon. But today we will take, let me see, there is 10 minutes and we have only 5 slides to cover. The questions, we will take up the questions of Sanatana Goswami, or first Sanatana Goswami exhibits his humility. That we'll take up first. Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just I wanted to know, Prabhu, this in case of sannyasi, when they go for Madhukari and when they beg from door to door and get whatever prasad they get, how they are sure that those prasad that is offered, and I mean from that point of view.
Oh, no, especially in the traditional in the traditional times, in the olden times, when Varnashram was still prevalent in India, the mendicants also used to go to the houses of the Brahmanas only. This is the first point to be understood. Those who are sannyasis, they used to go to the house of Brahmanas. Those who are very exalted and who are Paramhamsas, for them it doesn't matter. They can accept, and they go out of inspiration from the Lord to bestow mercy. And even if they accept, it will not affect them because of their purity, one. And secondly, because they go to the houses in order to, because they are inspired by the Lord to go there to bestow mercy. So in that sense, it doesn't affect them because they are completely in a different level of consciousness. So they are just doing it for the benefit of all living beings, to show Jivadaya. So it doesn't, for them in that case, it doesn't affect. But traditionally, when this vichar is there of, then, they specifically used to go to the houses of the Brahmanas and do Madhukari. It depends there are again different levels in that. And based on the level of consciousness and based on the level of purity, one has to act accordingly. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions anyone has? Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question is, if Varnashram person or Varnashram is performing any devotional services or activity, so will it fall under the category of bhakti, or is it a process of?
1 minute. First, you have to make a question clear. What is that? If Varnashram?
If any person who is in Varnashram, if he is into devotional services, going towards.
There are two things. One is following Varnashram, and other is practicing pure devotional service. These are two different things. So, what is your question?
See, I am a person who is into Varnashram.
No, not really.
Then?
See, Varnashram means where the society is divided based on Varna and Ashram. Varna means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras. And Ashram means Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Now, what Prabhupada explains is that today, although Varnashram in its original form is not existing, but still, Varnashram is the universal principle. In every society in the world today, you will find intellectual class, administrative class, mercantile class, and worker class. Based on the level of intelligence and consciousness, you will find people. So the point is that in today's world, although we have these classes of people, but because the varnas are not clear, everyone is not divided based on varnas. The varnas means Dhamma Brahmanas. So Brahmanas dharma, the duties of the Brahmana is, patan patan yajan yajana dana parigraha. These are the activities of the Brahmanas. So they take up to the study of the Vedas, they teach the Vedas, they do yagyas, and they participate in yagyas, they accept donations and they give donations also. Dhan parigraha. So their activities are fixed. And then the Kshatriyas have the Kshatriya dharma. They study the Dhanur Vedas, and they study how to manage the kingdom, how to protect the praja. And they have their Kshatriya dharma. And the Vaishyas are Krishir, Go, Raksha, Vanijyam. These are the only three businesses allowed. Vanijya. So there is trade, there is banking, and there is one more, agricultural trade. There are other trades also. So banking. So Krishi is also agriculture. And then there are Shudras, the labor class. The laborers, the labor class, we might think they are not so intelligent, but their work is very skilled. The artisans, the craftsmen, those who make the weapons. So all these classes had their particular dharma they used to follow based on the dharma shastras. And at the same time, uh, uh, there was a facility given where they could also practice angas of devotion in the form of having darshan of the deities, doing shravan and kirtan, doing the arti, attending the arti of the Lord. So the angas of devotion were also practiced. And slowly with these sadhu sanghas, within the Varnashram society, the Varnashram society dharma would act as a vehicle so that ultimately it would take us to pure devotion, where the devotion of the pure soul towards the Supreme Soul is there. That is the dharma of the soul. So the Varnashram is the dharma of the subtle body based on the Sabha. So today we have intellectual class and they are doing many professions, and those are in one sense not actually the duties what are enjoined in the scriptures. That's why there is a little incompatibility, and that's why we should see that suppose there is a doctor. I'm speaking about a Vaidya, and he is supposed to treat the patients without charging anything. And the patients, whatever, having gratitude towards the doctor, they would give grains, they would give some valuable items by which the Vaidya is to be satisfied. A Vaidya is not supposed to charge anything. If he charges, then the potency of his medicine will not work. Now, where you can see such a Vaidya, where you can find. So education, justice, and treatment was all free. Now, all these three are the most costly in this world today. So we are not practicing in one sense the Varnashram. That we have to be very clear. It is more in a crude form. It is called as Asuri Varnashram is what which is prevalent today in the world. So we now have been by Mahaprabhu's and Srila Prabhupada mercy given this direct bhakti to practice. We have to come to the level of Ananya Bhakti to practice, but we have been given Sadhana Bhakti, where we are practicing our spiritual life at the same time accumulating faith, Shraddha, where our faith fully matures and we give up everything and 24 hours engage in bhajan. That's a very exalted stage. But until then, we have to lead a life based on our nature in such a way that we lead a pious life and not commit sinful activities, so that will not become an independent, that will not become a barrier in our practice of our devotion, which we are doing, like chanting 16 rounds, hearing Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, following the limbs of bhakti. So that is what we are situated now. We are in this condition now. So of course, this is a very elaborate topic, but in just I tried to explain. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, very much. Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions or clarification anyone else has? Because it is time up, then I will not take up this theme because it is connected to the next theme. After Sanatana Goswami exhibits his humility, then he puts forth the questions and the Lord begins to answer. And there we will introduce the Dashamula Tattva. So next week we will start with the Dashamula Tattva. Any questions or any other clarification anyone has? So we will stop then now. It's 8:29, just 1 minute before it becomes 8:30. So we will stop on time. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Kaviraj Das Goswami ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.